let us all do we can to build a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're going to be talking about Russia, or either that, the failure of the U.S. media and U.S. intel, basically, you know, when they were promoting that whole thing of how Russia is doing a bounty hunting claim on U.S. troops. But, oh, wait. Now U.S. intel is backpedaling away, so all that...
What? You're telling me that the U.S., like these three-letter agencies, put out something about Russia that was sort of a bit ridiculous, and it turned out it was a bit ridiculous, and all the people like us who thought that was a bit ridiculous are gonna still get pooped on by the people who got it wrong. Again, tell me more.
Well, hold on. Well, here, I'm not going to tell you. In fact, it's going to be a little bit of a... That's right, a Tulsi time, everyone. Because here's the thing. Tulsi Gabbard had a chance to explain really why this whole Russian bounty story was debunked, and really the failure of U.S. intel and this whole crazy propaganda that we're seeing from the establishment media and from the political establishment. Well, let's play this video in its entirety.
A regime that's about 1,000 times more evil and dangerous than Russia, and that's China. Let's discuss it now with former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Aloha, Tulsi. Nice to see you.
Aloha, Steve. You too.
So what do you make of this story?
Well, first of all, let's look at what happened here. We're talking about the leak and release of classified information from our intelligence agency. I can tell you, as someone who served for 8 years on the Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees, as well as a soldier, I signed a document and I took an oath promising that I would not release any classified information that I received. If I'd gone home and talked to my husband, Abraham, about a briefing that I had, or if I tweeted information out, I would be subject to federal prosecution for a crime up to punishable with up to 10 years in prison. And so the incident that you're talking about here is one where a crooked entity within an intelligence agency worked with the media to release information, which, by the way, was not accurate or credible, with the intent to influence our foreign policy. This is what's at stake here. And this is why it's so dangerous. You know, we're not talking about a whistleblower who's releasing information about corruption or illegal activity in our government to serve the public interest. We're talking about activists within our intelligence agencies working with the media to release classified information in order to serve a specific politician, political party, or special interest. And worse, they're getting away with it. This is not an isolated incident.
God, I'm so glad you put that so clearly, because, I mean, the stakes on this story are actually much higher than I thought until you said what you just said. And what is the direction that the influence they wanted to put on our foreign policy?
Well, when you look at, it depends on whose interest they're trying to serve. So in this example, you say, okay, well, hey, they're trying to push President Trump or our politicians towards, quote unquote, punishing Russia for the thing that the information that they put out, or trying to make an argument for why the United States should keep troops in Afghanistan. But the reason or the interest of the politician may shift or change depending on these activists within our intelligence community. But what's at risk here is that it threatens our democracy when you have unelected people in positions of power trying to usurp the power and responsibility that our elected leaders have, and yet they're completely unaccountable. And this is why it's so critical that we tighten our laws, we prosecute those who do this to the fullest extent of the law in order to ensure institutions like our intelligence agencies are neutral, are objective, and are serving the best interests of the American people and our country.
Can we pause there for 1 second? As you because again, I mean, these are some very good points. What we're seeing right now, especially with our media, and you know, I want to actually pull up this article. I want to continue on with the rest of that video before we do cut it off. But this is an article that came out on April 15th. And this is from the Daily Beast, and how basically the U.S. intel is walking back its claim that Russians put bounties on American troops' heads. So it wasn't too long ago where, again, corporate media was promoting this. And this is very dangerous because, again, the New York Times ran with this. MSNBC ran with this. CBS, so many others ran with this story, and now it's turning out that it was debunked. And I'm very glad that Representative Tulsi Gabbard is calling out the fact that, look, we can't have our intel agencies do this, not only to our media, but to our political establishment. Daniel, real quick.
I want to quote Jimmy Dore on something that I think he makes always a great point on when you think about this. They're talking about leaks and such. Like, it's one thing if, like, oh, this leak is pro-Russia, then another pro-Russia. Oh, there's now an anti-Russia, another if there's a bit of randomness to it. Oops, we leaked this in. We're a mistake. These are all targeted. I can't think of the last time that there's been an accidental pro-Russian leak. They're all anti-Russia. They're all trying to push in a certain way. And she's right. When you have people in power in government like that aren't elected, that aren't accountable, that we don't even know who they are, who, by the way, why aren't they being prosecuted the same way everyone else would? And I want to also quote a great comment I saw earlier, which I think sort of summarizes a lot about Tulsi. Where was this quote? It was that Tulsi is doing more as a private citizen than there it is from Lawrence. Tulsi's working harder as a private citizen than all the phony Dems in Congress combined. It's such a crazy thing. Like we said before, we shouldn't be covering Tulsi Gabbard. Let's be completely honest. She's not in Congress anymore. She's not really relevant, yet somehow everyone's doing such a poor job that when we want to talk about the thing that we like talking about, which is stopping regime change wars, pulling out of all these countries, who is the only person that we can find that has that sort of level of power or former power that we can even look at? It's Tulsi Gabbard. It's really quite pathetic that the bar is Tulsi Gabbard, person out of Congress, talking about things Congress is doing. It's really pathetic.
Right. So let's actually focus on this article, too. I just want to read a few excerpts from it. It was a blockbuster story about Russia's return to the imperial great game in Afghanistan. The Kremlin had spread money around a longtime Central Asian battlefield for militants to kill remaining U.S. forces. It sparked a massive outcry from Democrats and their resistance amplifiers about the treasonous Russian puppet in the White House, whose admiration for Vladimir Putin had enraged American troops. Don't kill me, Putin. I didn't mean to say your name like that. So there we go. But on Thursday, the Biden administration announced that the U.S. intelligence only had low to moderate confidence in the story after all. Translated from the jargon of spy world, that means the intelligence agencies have found the story is at best unproven and possibly untrue. But yet corporate media, again, ran with it. Most notably, the New York Times. The United States Intelligence Committee assesses with low to moderate confidence that the Russian intelligence officers sought to encourage Taliban attacks on U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan in 2019, perhaps earlier, senior administration officials said. The information puts a burden on the Russian government to explain its actions and take steps to address this disturbing pattern of behavior, the official said, indicating that the Biden administration unprepared to walk the story back fully. Significantly, the Biden team announced a raft of sanctions on Thursday, but those sanctions targeting Russian sovereign debt market are prompted only by Russians interference in the 2020 election, which again, anybody can interfere in our elections. We've legalized bribery thanks to Citizens United and McCutcheon's decision.
They're like, only our water is supposed to go through this Swiss cheese netting. Oh wait, everyone else is going through too. Maybe we should fix the holes. No. Just tell them their water's bad. It's dumb.
Right. So, according to the officials on Thursday's call, the reporting about the alleged bounties came from a detainee reporting. Again, I'm going to say it again for the people. A detainee, someone who's already detained, probably being tortured. And look, if you're being tortured, you're going to say anything just to make it stop. Raising the specter that someone told their U.S. allied Afghan jailers what they thought was necessary to get out of a cage. Specifically, the official cited information and evidence of connections to criminal agents in Afghanistan and elements of the Russian government as sources for intelligence community's assessment. Without additional corroboration, such reporting is notoriously unreliable. Detainee reporting from a man known as Ibn Sahik al-Bibi, extracted from torture, infamously and bogusly fueled a Bush administration claim used to invade Iraq about Saddam Hussein training Al-Qaeda to make poison gas. We all know how that we found those weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right, Daniel?
They were in Saddam's backyard, I think.
Yeah, and again,
at the pool.
It's everyone can check out the article in its full entirety in the description box below. I actually want to pull up that video again with Tulsi Gabbard one more time before we go on, but it's just very important that we really address this situation, just how screwed up our system is and how unreliable our media is. So let's play the rest of that video, and then Daniel, you'll give the final note for this story.
Yeah.
talk, I'm just thinking this is of a piece with other examples we saw during the Trump administration. I know you were the last person to support everything that President Trump did, but you saw it in all sorts of policy areas where the establishment view, they didn't like the fact that you had a president coming in to challenge the establishment view on economic policy, trade policy, you name it. And here in foreign policy, of course, what he wanted to do was have a more reasonable relationship with Russia and focus on what he saw as the real threat, which is China. And they didn't like that.
Which, by the way, focusing on a diplomatic, a reasonable relationship with Russia, a major nuclear-armed country, one where we in Russia have thousands of nuclear missiles pointed at each other that can be launched any minute, that can reach our shores, any town in America, in less than 30 minutes, leading to nuclear holocaust. I would say trying to work in a more cooperative fashion to de-escalate tensions and walk us back from the brink of a Cold War is the most responsible thing that our leaders should do, including President Biden. Well,
we'll see. We'll see if that's the way it transpires, but you're always such a strong voice on this, and we really appreciate really illuminating the stakes of this story tonight. Tulsi, thank you. See you soon.
All right, let's end the video right there. So as we have covered numerous times here at Heartland's Media, we got to break away from the propaganda. We got to break the monopoly that has control over our media. And this is why we need to have free speech. This is why we need to protect independent media. And dare I say it, look, we have to look at other alternatives such as Odyssey and Rockfin, because the censorship is real. And yet, do you see the New York Times or MSNBC, CBS, or anyone else being held accountable for the fact that they were peddling this debunked story?
These are the people that got promoted.
Yeah. So, Daniel, I think you should wrap this story up, man. It's only fair, because how many times are we going to be repeating ourselves over and over again just how lazy our corporate media is and how irresponsible they are, and this is the kind of stuff that's going to lead us into future conflicts.
Yeah, this is quite, again, I'll say again just that it's really sad. It really saddens me that we have to keep tapping on Tulsi for this specific topic, because there is no one else we can really point to. There's no one else in Congress that has a very clear, we shouldn't be this evil empire kind of thing that takes over and overthrows governments the same way Tulsi is. And it's crazy that, again, I say again and again and again, it's crazy that we still have to call on Tulsi when we want to talk about these topics. But with all that, this is nothing new. This is what drives everything. The way that they use these sort of processes is always the same. Something leaks, the media scoops it up and eats it, and everyone else listens to it. Everyone else gets the message. It's propagated correctly in their point of view and succinctly. It's pushed out. Then the intelligence community comes out with a, oops, we actually don't have any trust in this. Now that it's already been published and everyone knows about it, we don't believe in it. And then the media at the little bottom ticker of their scroll will go, oh yeah, we're really sorry, we screwed this up. But no one hears that. Everyone hears the message. The entire point of these leaks is so that the media can gobble it up and they can push foreign policy agenda, and then at the same time say we had nothing to do with it, because once we learned it was fake, we put a little message somewhere saying that it's fake. But we know that they want that kind of story. That's the kind of story that they get paid for. So,
yeah, and that's a good note to end it on.